Welcome to the Natasha Effect, where we talk real, we think different, and hopefully we change perspectives one conversation at a time. Heads up, today's episode does get deep, touching on trauma, depression, and healing. So if that's heavy for you, please honor yourself, take care of yourself, and give this a listen at a later time. Today, I am here with Christina Idolette, also known as Christina LaDonna. She is an author, a speaker, certified life coach, and founder of Shields Diamonds Life Coaching and Mentorship. She is all about helping people break free from depression, trauma, and those moments when life truly feels impossible. So get ready for a deep, raw, and inspiring conversation. Christina, the floor is yours.
If I asked you to tell some passerby what is it that you do, how would you explain that?
Oh, how would I explain it? When I say, I told somebody the other day, I said, I feel like I'm just a do girl for the kingdom. And they was like, what? I was like, because I do a lot. I'm a certified life coach. I have my AA and Christian counseling. I'm an author. I consider myself I was told I'm a kingdom pusher because I help push people in their ministries and their businesses to basically help them get to where they desire to be. But then I have to learn that once I get them to that place, it's time to bounce. And
So I'm out.
right, but I would want to hang on because it's like, oh, I helped you bring this baby to fruition. I want to stay here. But basically, when they was like, well, no, you're like a midwife. You push them into where they're supposed to be. Right. Well, that's what my life coach had told me. She was like, no, you see where their potential is and you help them along. It's like you're helping them through that 9 months. You're helping them give birth and you may be there a little after. She said, but does a midwife go home with the parent for the first year? I was like, well, no, that's just kind of crazy. She's like, exactly. So you have to know that, okay, after they've given birth, you stay for a certain amount of time, but then you have to leave. And it doesn't mean that there's an issue or a problem. It just means that your assignment is done. You don't just detach like, hey, you can go say hey on the baby's first birthday, Christmas, holidays. But that's how she had to break it down to me because I felt like, well, I did this, I gave. And she's like, no, you're the pusher. You just help put things in place, help make them comfortable, help them see. And then you move on to the next, but you still stay connected by sewing into them, supporting them, sharing, their accomplishments. I get tongue tied sometimes. It's okay. But, so I do that. I've been an administrative assistant. I'm an events coordinator. I'm a notary. I do stuff in ministry. I can marry people. I can marry people. I mean, I've done so much, like I say, to help other people to build them up, to encourage. I'm an encourager, and so those are like, I do so much. So that's why I say I'm a do girl for the kingdom.
I think that's a really creative way to put it. And oftentimes, I think in life and in business, we have a really hard time of letting go or just moving on. And it goes down to that old wives' tale or just that old sentence that everyone always says, don't bring your work home with you. And I feel like that's what we all tend to do in everything. But that's if you're able to really detach and know when to let go, I think that is really vital to what you do.
You have to. And I know I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, either you let go or God creates divine chaos. You don't want that to happen because in that your feelings will get hurt. If you think about it, you think about nature. And I used to watch the Nature Channel. So if you think about it with the birds, the mother, they feed them and this, that, and other. But when they get to a certain age, it's time for them to leave the nest. So she makes the nest uncomfortable. She starts bringing twigs and different stuff to make it uncomfortable for them to leave on their own. If that doesn't push them out, she picks them up and she drops them like, I need you to fly. So basically, it's the same thing in life. It's like, okay, I allowed you to come alongside of them for this assignment to help get them there. But now it's time for you to transition to go help somebody else. And also I have my own things, that I'm doing. So I can't let that go as well. But it's like that assignment there is done. And if you don't know when to shift or when to pivot, then he makes it uncomfortable or causes that aggravation or irritation where there wasn't any for you to shift or move. And you don't want to get to that place.
Isn't it crazy how many similarities there are, like in the animal kingdom world and then like with us as human beings? Honestly, I would have never thought about that like bird situation, but it's true. I mean, they just throw them out the nest and hope they fly. And even I think when kids are learning how to swim, for example, like how many times are like, just throw them in, they'll figure it out.
Right.
I used to say like swimming is an instinct not to die. So you'll figure it out. Right. But I think that's the same thing, is sometimes people don't get put in that uncomfortability, and so they don't have to grow or progress because you're not enabling them anymore.
Because ultimately, like you say, enabling them, you become a crutch for them. Now they can't soar. You've given them the tools that they need to be productive and soar on their own. But it's like, yeah, I know I can do that, but I'd rather have you there. So at some point, you have to remove the crutch. Just like riding a bicycle. When you're first learning, you have training wheels. That's that assistance that we give them. But at some point, it's like, you can't be 16 years old with training wheels.
Yeah, I like that. I might try and use that explaining going forward in terms of just trying, you can't always be there for somebody. Kind of with behind your titles, there's a process that people don't really see or don't talk about. Let's talk about like the pain behind the purpose, and you don't always get it on the first try, but what do you think that people need to hear? Because it's so easy to post about the wins and hide behind the war, but where do you draw that line or that distinction? Like what to show other people that you can be vulnerable and move on through that?
You have to be transparent because, like you say, a lot of people look and they see, oh, you've accomplished this, or you did this, or you did that. Even like with the book, oh, you were able to do all this. That was a 7-year process. That wasn't an overnight thing, or, oh, I want to write a book, I want to do this, and bam, it happened. It's like, no, even with the relationship that I was in before I met with my husband, I was in an abusive relationship for 15 years. Yes, I wanted to get out of it, but it was still a process. I got out of it at one point, but I went back. And so a lot of people don't want to talk about the failed attempts. Yeah. They just want to talk about, oh, I got out of this relationship, or, oh, I quit being a hoe, or, oh, I quit. Yes, I'm an ex-hoe. I have the shirt to prove it. I'm just saying. We'll look at the shirt later. But no, I'm just saying. But
I'm gonna need to get my husband one of these shirts.
It's a process. No, your husband got the shirt for somebody else, but I know he needed one for himself. I know, but it's a process, and the thing of it is, we don't automatically, when we're climbing out of the hole, if you're thinking about the issue, it's like a hole. And when you're climbing out of a hole, what happens? You lose your grip. You slip. Sometimes you fall all the way back in before you get out. It's the same thing when we're going through traumas or different things, or trying to get somewhere. We fall back in, we slip. But people don't want to talk about how they climbed pretty much to the top and they could see, and they slid back down halfway, or they slid all the way back down into the hole. And that's not helping another person who is in that, who's dealing with that, because they may have gotten to the top, but they slid back down, and they don't want to tell anybody because they're embarrassed that I was out of this and I went back. I decided that I don't want to sleep around and fornicate or be a hoe anymore. I want to wait until I get married. But Johnny called me and I was having a moment, so I slid around the corner and I had another booty call. Like, dang, but I was doing so good for almost 2 years. You know, they don't want to share that because they're embarrassed. But when we're telling our testimonies or we're telling our stories, if we're transparent and honest to say, I've been there. Yeah, I did good. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. I stopped having sex or whatever for all this time. And then I was going through a bad spot or whatever. And so called me and I slipped. I had a moment, but I didn't like how I felt. So I got back on track and I made sure I put other measures in place to have that accountability. So I didn't slip again. So I didn't make that mistake again. So now this is where I'm at. It's about transparency and honesty, because when that person is asking, a lot of times they didn't had the oops moment. They didn't, had been doing good and they went back and they're feeling judged. And so I don't judge anybody because I'm not a perfect person. Like I said,
Nobody is.
Right. Nobody is. But a lot of times people don't want to say where they at or ask for the help that they truly need because they feel like they're going to be judged.
Honestly, 100%. And I think that the best way I've ever heard it put is people hide behind the highlight reels. You don't show the grind and the grit that it took. You don't show the vulnerabilities, but that's what people fall in love with because that shows them that you're a real person. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm super guilty of doing that too. I think everybody is. But for me, myself, a lot of people see me like I'm a young female. I have a lot accomplished. And I'm not new to that or a stranger to that. But I went through some shit. Like, and I say that like I went through the foster care system. My mom was in a domestic relationship. I witnessed that stuff growing up. My dad, my biological dad, in and out of jail for selling drugs. He's got his life good now. But, I dealt with that. My foster dad, who pretty much raised me, passed away while I was in basic training. So I dealt with some shit. But people just see me and they're like, oh, wow, pretty privilege, white privilege. You get it handed to you. Everything. And I'm like, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But a lot of that is my fault because I didn't share that with people. And it was embarrassment, lack of vulnerability. Like I didn't want to be looked at different because I was in that position. But I think that that's where the gold lining is, or the silver lining is like, if you share that with people, they see you as a person. They see, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. I had every reason to be a statistic. Like, kids in the foster care system don't get a great name, especially if you go in. I went in when I was 15, so I was a teenager, but I ended up graduating top of my class. I now have a bachelor's and a master's degree. I joined the military with high remarks. So I'm running a business. I'm a mom. I'm married. I own 2 homes. So I'm doing well, but people assume that I didn't go through anything.
People see you and they go by, what is it, first impression, first appearance or whatever, but they don't really know. And what they don't understand is a lot of times when they see people, they could be seeing a mask. They're not really seeing the actual person. They're seeing what the person is putting out, what they're trying to represent, what they're trying to personify. So like one of the things, and I'm going back to do it next year with Shields Diamonds, is I was doing a conference. It's called Behind the Mask, and I dealt with like the different things. The last one that I had did was we were exposing the mask of suicide, because that was one of the things that I dealt with. That, my passion is to help people feeling, helpless, hopeless, depressed, and different things like that or whatever. But the reason why I was doing the Behind the Mask is because for the majority of my life, I hid behind the mask. You would think that my life was so much better than what it was, or I had it all together, this, that, and the other. But how many people, like you said, if you didn't share your story, I would never know that about you, because you look like you have it all together. But how many people wear this mask like, oh, I have it all together, I'm good, but inside they're dying. They're suffering, and then they go home and they're crying, or they're in this dark place but to the world, it looks like they have it all together. And you can even look at like different actors or stars or different people that were in the limelight who did commit suicide, and people are like, well, why would they do that? They had all this money, they had all this, that, and the other.
Even like artists that put out songs, like the first one that came to mind was Megan Thee Stallion. She put out her song, everyone thinks she lives this like very glamorous life, but she put out a song about being depressed, which got a lot of traction. It's like, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, they deal with a lot of shit that we don't see.
That was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to go into launching the podcast, was being able to share my story and let people know that I didn't just wake up and become successful. Like, I had to work for it. And, you know, we've all been through things, but if you don't share them, you don't know. So one of the main reasons was, it took me years to even tell my closest friends about foster care and about that whole ordeal. My best friend didn't know until I think we were like almost 2 years into our friendship, because I'm a very private person in that aspect. But growing up, I'm realizing that made me who I am, and that I need to embrace that resiliency and that vulnerability and those traumas and use it to progress myself even further. And for a long time I did. I hid behind, I didn't own that part of my life. I was like, all right, my life started when I was an adult. Like, right. My childhood didn't matter. And so that kind of brings me into something that you wrote to me that I read that stuck with me, was that I think on your 50th birthday, you said that Tina was like everything connected to trauma. So now you go by Christina, which makes you feel like you walk in your freedom. And so that ties in with, why do you think that we carry identities for so long that we truly can't embrace, that truly aren't ours? And you touched on it a little bit, but I just kind of want to hear your take on that story.
Yeah, so pretty much I talk about it in the book. So I had abandonment and rejection by basically both of my parents, my mother and my father. I was raised by the grandmother and my grandfather up until he died when I was 7. I was molested by the different men, whatever, that came to the grandmother's house. I was abused by her, you know, child abuse. Later on, I got into an abusive relationship where I was abused mentally, physically, as well as sexually. You know, like I was picked on. My weight fluctuated from being a very skinny kid to a little pudgy kid. It's like it didn't matter what size I was. I got picked on. You know, I became a people pleaser because I was looking for love. I was looking for validation. I was looking for affirmation, all those different things that I didn't get, because I was like, well, why did my mom not want me? Why did my dad not want me? And then, of course, the grandmother didn't make it any better, because she was like, oh, they didn't like you and this, that, and the other. But she was just trying to get me to be loyal to her. And it didn't matter what I did. I could get good grades or do this or do that. And it's like, oh, you're dumb, you're stupid, and this, that, and the other. So I was always made to feel worthless and just going through so many different things. And it was hard trying to fight through all of those different things from childhood into adulthood and relationships, where as long as I was giving and being there for everybody, they were siphoning and draining me. But then when I was in a hole, I was in a pit and I needed help, everybody got ghosts. It's like nobody was there. And then it's like I had to try to pull myself up out of the hole, out of the muck and the mire. And then it's like when I got back on my feet again, then everybody came back because now they needed me again. It's like, but where was you at? I did all of this for you, bent over backwards, whether it was time, it was finances, or whatever. Oh, well, I can't do anything, or I'll get back with you, or this, that, and other. I'll get back with you turned into nothing, you know. And then later on, it's like, well, now I'm out of it. Like, I don't need, oh, well, I meant to. It was every excuse in the book, but it became a pattern. And then I became resentful. And I'm just like, I can't keep holding on to that because I know I'm supposed to help people and different things. But some people just didn't know how to be there. Some people were just selfish and didn't care.
Because me, if someone cries in front of me, I'm like,
so if I
I'm
start,
like that meme with a broom where
so if I start crying right now, you just gonna be like,
oh, look at you crazy. I care deeply. I do. But I'm gonna be like, cut.
That was almost like something I was watching yesterday, and the girl started crying. He was like, "Oh, I don't do crying. Hold on." The guy was like, "Let me go get my assistant." Like, and I laughed, but it's true. Some people just they don't know how to deal with it. But then I had to realize later, and this was something happened some years ago where there was a situation that I was going through, and I had kind of retracted myself from people, and I was talking to somebody. Somebody actually called, was like, "Hey, how you doing? You've been missing in action. What's going on?" And so I was kind of telling them, a little bit, not trying to go in too deep of what it was, but kind of telling them. And in the middle of it, the Holy Spirit was like, "Shut up, you said too much." And I'm like, what?
Excuse me?
Right. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, I didn't really give like the detail. So I did. I stopped the conversation or whatever. And something wound up happening with them. And I felt so guilty and felt bad. And he was like, everybody can't handle what you're dealing with. Wow. It doesn't make me elite or better or anything. But sometimes the traumas or the different things that you deal with, like you say, they're not capable. They're not able to. They're not qualified to handle it. And I had to realize, like, oh, okay. So I have a friend now that we talk. But what I do is, if I have something going on, I ask her, "How is your day? How are you?" I check the temperature. I make sure she can handle whatever it is I'm getting ready to dump on her. Somebody may call and they just start dumping. Like, they don't ask you anything. They just start dumping.
How are you?
Right. They just start dumping. You have to just be like, hey, like, hold on. Like, I'm sorry you're dealing with all that. I can't handle that today. Because you have to know your own limits. Because if not, like you say, they don't mean any harm, but they just want to dump. They need help. But by them putting that on you, that can tip you off somewhere that you don't want to go. And for me, because of the trauma and stuff that I went through, and like the mental breakdowns, the suicide attempts, and the different things, I have to protect me. I know how much I can handle. I know my limit. Other people don't know that. They can say, "Oh, well, when she get that," like, you don't want her to get to this point. But you don't know my measurement.
Well, it's like pain tolerance too, but this is like emotional pain tolerance. Everyone's is different. So like, I have an extremely high one, but I know somebody who cries when they watch romantic films. Their emotional levels might not be, we won't name names, but I think but it's the same thing. So when you're talking about a physical pain tolerance, what can they handle emotionally? Right. And some days I can handle a lot, but some days I might cry when I watch something sad. So you just have to know your own point, because you're very right. If you don't let them know, who else is going to tell them?
They don't know, because if they see you as that strong person, they're going to think that you're on 100 all the time. And it's like, okay, today I might be at 100, and tomorrow I could be like at 25, like, but you're still looking at me at 100. It's like, if you have to tell them. And the thing of it is, if you tell them and they're really your friend, or they're really somebody that cares about you, they will understand and not try to dump. They'll be like, "You know what? Let me give you a couple days to kind of get it together, and then let me circle back." And if they circle back, their first question should be, "How are you doing today?" If they give you a couple of days and they come back and they just ready to dump, like, "I still need to get this off their chest," they don't really care about your well-being. They're looking for that trash can.
You ever got those phone calls where, like, as soon as you pick up, it's like, "Oh my God, girl, you'll never guess what."
Yeah.
I immediately like click.
It's like, hello. Like, no, we're not. I'm sorry, we're not doing that today. I'm like, yes, I say, if you need me, sometimes that could be a catch-22, that double-edged sword. Yeah. Oh, if you need me, call me. It doesn't matter what time or whatever, I'm there.
Family's the worst for that. No, like they'll be calling. I swear they only call when they need something and I don't think they need it. But it's like as soon as I answer the phone and trauma dumper or whatever they got going on.
Right.
Well, they said this and they did that. And I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, no, hey, what's up? No, how you doing? And I can tell that it's a conditioning thing because, or just it's so habitual at this point. Because I called my mom the other day. Well, it's a lot better now. I say the other day, but like months ago. And the first thing she would say anytime I called, because she was so used to people doing this to her, was, what? No hey, no hello, no what's up. Like, what? I'm like, damn, I can't call and say hello?
Hey.
Right. But that's part of setting boundaries. Yeah. So when you set boundaries, even when somebody calls with that, you have to treat people how to treat you. You have to teach them. That's what it is. You have to teach them how to treat you. That's something that my apostle always say. He's like, you have to teach people how to treat you because they don't know. Because everybody is different. So how I interact with you is going to be different than how I may interact with Raina, or you have to know who you're dealing with. Like, you have to know, like, okay, not really with you, but I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, like, if I'm talking to you or we're dealing with something, I may have to be a little bit more soft-spoken or sensitive. And then when I'm talking to Raina, because I can say Raina, because I'm just straight up, I'm straight up no chaser with her. I'm hard. I'm going to yell at her. I'm going to fuss. And she'll be like, well, why are you talking nice to her versus? Because you can handle it. Because you can handle it and you're hard-headed. So I have to deal with you. Love you, Raina. But
love you, girl.
Love you, Raina. But you, like you say, you have to know who you're dealing with. So it's like, if you're more sensitive and easily emotional, I can't come at you the same way that I come with her. And even if I'm giving the same instructions, I still have to be mindful of how I give you the instructions for you to hear it, take heed, and move on it versus how I do with her. So you have to know who you're dealing with and their sensitivity level, but you still have to create those boundaries to say, like you say, if somebody calling and they start down, so hold on, pause. When you call, are you good? What kind of day are you having? You have to teach them how to deal with you.
Well, and that's why I said it's so much better with her now, because when she used to do that to me, it would piss me off. I'd be like, look, I have never called and warranted this response. So, and it's because my sisters, they call her and, or just anyone, but specifically my sisters, they call her and immediately it's a problem. There is no, hey, how are you? How's this? And I mean, maybe it's because it's my mom. You're supposed to be able to do that, but she's a person too. And my thing is, I had to train her. She can't do that to me because I get offended. I'm like, yo. So I had to train her, like, yo, when I call you, I'm calling to say, hey, what's up? How are you doing? What's new? Because she lives in Maine and I'm down here, so it's not, but they're all in Maine together. So for them, they don't, I guess she's not used to the, hey, how are you? What's up? She's used to. So I was getting the what? And I'm like, yo, what I did? But you're right. You have to train those people how to talk to you or they don't know. And it's the same, like in the military, I can't talk to certain soldiers the same way that I can talk to other soldiers, because some of my soldiers, if you raise your voice at them, they cry. And then some of my, which is a whole nother topic, but then some of my soldiers, they're hard-headed and they only respond to that.
Right.
So you have to learn who your audience is and if you want to get your point across. And I think that comes down to building that relationship. So that's true. Very eye-opening on that aspect. But yeah, so I mean, like you said, you've gone to people for your dark times, but now people come to you for when they're in some of the darkest times in their life. So how do you transition from that? Or you refer to that as like your zone of genius. So how do you do someone, or work with someone who you have said they're not completely healed, but they're not like in the hole, as you said.
So we just, it's a step-by-step process. It's seeing where they are, well, where they were, where they are, and where they want to go. So I always say we have to get to the root of the problem. Anything with trauma or like inner healing, even with therapy and counseling, you have to get to the root of the problem. Because if you're saying, oh, I'm drinking 4 or 5 times a day, or I have to have a smoke or whatever, just using that as an example.
Why?
Okay, the issue isn't the drinking or the smoking. It's part of the issue, but technically that's a leaf or a branch on the tree. What is the root of it? What has happened that caused you that every time you feel agitated or upset or whatever, I got to get a drink, I got to get a smoke, or I want to have sex? It's like, what is the root of it? Yes, that's part of the problem and we have to deal with that. But what causes you to do it? So that means if something happens to upset you, we need to find you a different avenue of an outlet. So giving them other things to do when they're upset, so that they don't reach for the drink, they don't reach for the smoke, whatever their smoke of choice is, and or sex, because that can also be a drug of choice. It can be shopping.
People are really just looking for that quick dopamine hit. That's what they're reaching for. And those are usually the vices, that drinking, smoking, sex. And I think the issue now, and you obviously have way more experience with this, but from what I'm seeing on the outside, is that so many people don't have healthy coping mechanisms, or they're not taught them. And so it could be as easy as, like for me, I work out or I go for a walk. I literally just get outside, because for me, sunlight is like a quick dopamine hit. But for some people that it's not. But you need to figure out what yours is. And I think when people understand that from a biological level, or you can break it down to them and explain, what is dopamine, what it does for you, and like the reason they're reaching for these things, that's exactly the root of the problem. And so I think understanding it from maybe a biological standpoint is also beneficial.
Right, you have to get to the root of the problem. You have to heal the root of the problem, because if you don't heal the root of the problem, you're going to always be looking for some kind of vice, and you may put one down, but then you could pick something else up. Like now you're shopping consistently, but now you done charged up all your cards, you're in a hole, your bills are due. Like whatever the vice is, it's like, okay, you may put the one thing down, but then now you're picking up something else. No, we need to get to the root of it. Like, what is the initial root that has caused you to do these different things? And then once you see what the root is, now, because we've identified the root, now it's okay. Now we got to work with you to help you with your healing, because a lot of times with different traumas, your emotions are tied to that, because it's like that sensory in your brain. It's almost like this could have happened 5 years ago. It could have happened when you were 10 years old. But anytime that trigger hits, the trigger doesn't just hit your emotions, it hits every part of your being, like from your head down to your feet. So now you're feeling like your heart is racing, you're sweating, you're getting paranoid, you're starting to feel all of that
fight or flight, which is
all over again.
System.
Exactly. And it's like, if you don't get to the root of it, you're going to feel that that could have happened when you were 7 years old. Now you're 42, you're 53, but you're still feeling that every time that there's a trigger, and you have to go back and heal that part of you. Even like in the book, when I was writing different things, it was hard. Why did it take a 7-year process? Because I had to heal through every chapter. I had to heal through everything of not just writing it, but even going through the edits, because you're constantly having to go through and reread or add this or add that. So I had to go back. For me, one of the things I had to do, the 7-year-old who was molested and then got beaten afterwards because I was molested, which it wasn't my fault. She put me in that position. But then when I cried out because, he put his penis in me and it hurt, you come beating me with an extension cord. Now I'm under the table crying, broken, battered, and hurting. And the only reason you stopped beating me was because he ran out and you ran after him, just to find out later you was pimping me out and you was mad because, your money got messed up and he was trying to run off without paying. But that did something to me, and that hindered me throughout the years. It wasn't till writing the book that I had to realize that I had to go back and get that 7-year-old part of me and say, we're not in this place anymore. I tell people it takes therapy and Jesus. That's what it took for me, and that's what it takes for me to keep me where to keep me sane, seriously. But you need that help, because it took me going to get that help for them to ask questions. Because a lot of times questions can unlock things, like you say, because you suppressed it, because it hurt, it was painful, it was scary. I don't want to remember that. But by us asking questions, it unlocks those painful things. That's it right there.
Something else you said was, it's hard to move forward, but it's harder to keep running away. So that kind of hit me hard, and I'm just wondering, what would you say to the woman who does keep running and keep calling, and she's afraid that it'll cost her too much to leave or to do what she needs to do?
Basically, all I can do is just share my story and let them know, how much more it's going to cost them the longer that they stay in it. They have to be ready. It's just like, even for me, I had to be ready, because I had a few people that kind of knew what was going on and they wanted to help or whatever, but I was scared to leave because of the lies. Oh, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna take the kids, or whatever it was. And I had somebody, they were honest with me. They was like, you know what, until you're ready to leave for real, I can't keep having these conversations with you. It's draining for me and it hurts me, and I'm giving you, these solutions and this, that, and other, and you're not taking it. And it was hurtful, but it was a hard truth.
Yeah.
But I was glad that she gave it to me, and also had to realize that I didn't get the help, some of the help that I needed, because if they were helping me, they were helping him, because he was still in the house, or he was still tied to me. So I had to come to a place of like, you know what? If I have nothing, if I'm on the streets, whatever this means, I have to get out of this. I can't do this anymore. And ultimately, that's what happened. I did kind of wind up homeless, but I chose to leave him. I was choosing to leave him. Like, it was that thing, like I said, God will create divine chaos. I kept saying I wanted to leave him, but I didn't know where to go. But because it had been so much, I don't think anybody believed me. Like, even my biological father, I begged him to come here. He lived in California, and he was just like, no, I don't want to come there and like basically uproot my world to come there to help you, and you wind up back with him. But at that point, I really did not want to be with him anymore. I wanted to be done. But the only help I was getting was from him. And at that time, my mother had died, so I didn't really have any like family support or anything like that. So it was trying to figure it out. And literally, I was just like, God, I can't do this anymore. I need to get out. I need to get out. So his mom wound up putting me out. I think I said in the book, I was like, it was the worst day of my life, but the best day of my life too. Yeah. Because when she was putting me out, right, I just didn't realize it yet, because I'm getting yelled at and stuff for all this stuff that really he caused, and he's sitting there not saying anything, and I'm looking at him like, so you really just gonna sit here and let this happen and not say anything? I was like, okay. The only thing I asked them was, could the three younger ones, which was his, could they stay? Me and my second oldest, we had to go. We had no place to go, and I was just like, okay, we'll leave. I packed up everything or whatever. So it's like once I got out, then he's trying to call and, you know, give these excuses why he didn't say anything. I was like, don't talk to me. You know, literally, we lived in my storage. I had a storage shed with all my stuff in there because we were temporarily living with him and his family, and I had nowhere to go, so that's where I was at. You know, I found some place here and there for me and my son or whatever, but before that, that's where we were. And so he offered to get a hotel room. But he only offered to get the hotel room because he wanted me to have sex with him. And then he was like, and then afterwards he was like, oh, well then he can come and y'all can stay until checkout the next day. And I think that was at the time where I was just like, F it and F you, I'm done. Like, are you serious? And I was like, at this point, doing bad all by myself. I have no roof over my head except for this storage thing that we have to come to after the people leave after hours and kind of sneak in and be in there. And like literally, I had a suitcase where I would put the door down where it was just enough air for us to still breathe, but also for people not to know that we were in there, getting up in the morning, going across the street to Net Park at the transit station to kind of wash off, brush our teeth. And then at the time, my son was going to tech, so he was walking to school. It was a long walk. I had to go to work. I worked that's when Kmart was open on Bush. You know, I went up there. And you know, it was a cafe up there. So even when he got out of school, he would catch the bus up there and he would sit there until I got off and we would go back and go to the thing together. And it was very hard. It was very hard and traumatic for me. But as I was writing, I didn't realize just how hard and traumatic it had to be for him as a teenager, not just watching me go through it, but going through it with me. And I made a decision. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And he's still trying to call and be a part. And I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to deal with you anymore. But he used my children as chess pieces, if you will. Like, cause I could collateral because I could only see them like on my day off. I would go to the two that was in school. The other one I didn't see her because the mom had them and they really didn't want me coming to their house, so I didn't see her. So because I didn't want to talk to him, he was like, I'm bringing the kids, knowing I want to see the kids. That's my heartstring. I want see my kid. So he would bring them up there, and it's like 5 minutes basically it seemed like hey, how you doing, hugs, this, that, and other. Now it's like, no, y'all go over there, I need to talk to you. He would dangle the carrot of, it went from I'll never marry you to, oh, I got a ring. Small compromise. You know, oh, I got a ring, I'm going to ask you to marry me, but it never did. And then every now and then he would bring the ring out, like you say, that dangling the carrot thing. And after a while I was just like, you know, this is never going to happen. So we both had bought rings from Kmart. Hey, that was my store. I worked there. I had a discount. And so when I realized he's never going to marry me, this is just, he's just playing the game to keep me locked in, to keep me spun in the web. I needed gas money. I went and found a little ring, took it back to the store, got my money back, went and bought me some gas and some groceries. He would always ask me, where's the ring? Oh, it's put up. It's in the storage. I would come up with every excuse in the book. No, I good. Well, I was lying. The ring was gone. Negro, you ain't gonna marry me. You never were. You just did it to keep control over me. And I was just like, at that point, I think I had kind of checked out. I did, at the point where I did check out, we had split, we got back together. But that point where his mom put me out and I went through all that, that's when I was totally done. I'm like, I will not do this anymore. I will not be the bottom line or your doormat or whatever anymore. At this point, I have nothing else to lose because I have nothing. I don't need you. I don't need you dangling the carrot anymore. It's just not gonna happen. And I finally was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. He kept calling. I had to call his dad and tell his dad, can you tell him to stop? Because he was calling my job. Because I had turned my phone off. And they kept getting me off the register. And my boss was like, I had to call his dad, like, look, I'm trying to get the money to get my own place because you have my kids. And if he makes me lose my job, I'm not gonna be able to get them. And I told him, I said, I can't do this anymore. It's toxic. I'm done. I don't want to have any dealings with him. We broken up. Please tell him to stop calling me. And he did. And so he stopped calling, but then that's when he would come up there to try to use the kids as that leverage to still have
Some people are just so
connection.
At least his dad was able to get through to him. But like with my sister's ex, his mom would be the first person saying, oh, he's amazing. He would never do that. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? But you don't want to believe that about your kids. And I can understand that coming from a mom's perspective. But using kids as pawns or anything is leave it to the adults, because now you're not only messing with your head, you're messing with those kids' heads, and that's not fair to them.
Right. And they've gone through so much, like seeing what I dealt with, my dysfunction, going through seeing that. So they've had different things in their life that they're still working on overcoming. And that's not something when you have children that you want them to go through.
Of course not. Yeah.
You know, and so I wish I would have got it together sooner, but because I'm at a better place now, I can give them a better version of their mother. I can explain to them, you know, and I pretty much all of them, we've had the conversation of like the stuff that I went through or whatever. That was before I finished writing the book or whatever, or doing all this, because I knew I was like, there's gonna be a time where I'm gonna be out there and I'm gonna be telling my story. I'm gonna be telling what happened. So I'm like, let me sit down with y'all and let you hear it from me first before you're like, wait, what? This happened? That happened? Right. So I had a conversation with each and every one of them, except for my second oldest son. He said he didn't want to hear it because there was a lot that happened to him. And so he wasn't ready for that conversation. And I expected that, you know, of him or whatever. I mean, he's in Germany somewhere. So he may see it, he may not, you know, but I mean, I'm still willing to, we've talked about some stuff, but more of the intricate, more detailed stuff with the other kids, we haven't gone through that. But I needed them to know because I'm like, it's going to come out. And
well, it's better to come from you too.
Right. I was like, I'd rather us sit down and we talk about it, and I let you know what's what before, you know, you hear me on the podcast or I'm doing a message in church or something, or I'm speaking engagement, and I just, you know, because, you know, the Lord just have you tell all your business. You may not want to, but that's why I said there's nothing, you know, that I could say is off limits, because anything and everything that I've gone through, if me sharing my testimony or what it is I've dealt with can help somebody else, I'm willing to be transparent 100%.
Well, and that's very true. Like, it does hurt coming from somebody else. And I mean, we kind of figured out some things about my mom and her past that only came out, excuse me, that only came out because of the foster care reports. And so, and you know, at that time, I'm 15, 16. I'm not stupid. Like, I can read.
Right.
And so reading it from a court document and finding it was so much worse than if she had just said it. But she may not have been ready, like you said. So I don't think she ever expected ever for that to happen, that knock on the door nobody ever wants. But had she have said some of those things, you could be aware to them, or at least privy to the knowledge.
Right.
Or at least after it had happened, sit me down and talk to me. I know I wasn't an adult, but in a way, yeah. Let me know, hey, you might hear these things. Let me tell you. And I would have respected that so much more than just reading it in a document. So I think that the way you went about it is absolutely the best course of action you could have taken, because also you have to be in your own truth, and writing it, I'm sure, was very therapeutic. There's a reason that it took you 7 years. It wasn't just like you were writing a fictional story with a happy ending. Right. You were writing about your life. And so sometimes it takes time to work through those things. So, and I'm sure even now, do you still, like, when you're talking about it, or do you ever like reread it and it brings up things still for you? Like, is it still something that you continue to work through, or have you kind of made peace with?
I think most of it I have. So, like, when I thought this was supposed to have came out, like, probably over a year ago or whatever, no, because I went with one publishing company, and everything was going, and I thought it was supposed to come out, and right when it came to when I wanted it to come out, it's like the bottom fell out. It's like the lady ghosted me. Pretty much, no, seriously, she had to pay for everything. Pretty much, she had to ghosted me. Wow. Or whatever. I literally had to get my apostle involved to help me find out like what's going on, because everything was on track to release, because I wanted it released on January 23rd, which is my mom's birthday. Okay. And she was like, yeah, as long as we can do. This year, or? No, it was like a year or so ago. Oh, so the year before. Yeah. When I was supposed to have it, I had wanted it, and that it didn't happen. So she was like, yeah, as long as we do X, Y, Z, we'll be able to get it done. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't have a hysterectomy, so I'm recovering from surgery, but I'm up. I'm like typing. I'm trying to get stuff because I really wanted it out by a certain time. I wanted it for the last conference that I did. It didn't happen, but we was like, okay, we can still get it out, get it done, or whatever. Then it's like, as we were getting closer, I'm just like, okay, hey, what's going on? Didn't hear nothing. So I sent her a long email on, yeah, I was being petty. I can admit that. On January 23rd, I said, so it's January 23rd. I guess it's not going to get released today. Like, because I was mad.
I would give anything to read that.
I
know that thing was full of feelings.
I was so pissed and so hurt that it didn't happen. And even when I said that, I still kind of didn't get a response.
She didn't respond? No. You probably scared her.
I didn't get a response. So, like I said,
hopefully she's okay.
I had to get my apostle involved. So he reached out to her. He was like, so hey, what's going on with her? With her project. And so then she reached out to him, and
so she responded. She's scared of you.
She reached out to him, and so he sent a text. He was like, hey, she's gonna reach out to you today. And I was just like, well, dang, why did I have to go through those channels to get it done? But then that's when she was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to finish the project. Ultimately, I'm closing my business or whatever. So I have to see about doing a refund and getting, your stuff back. Of course, I was upset and stuff or whatever, but I was just like, okay, let me just get whatever she's going to give me back. I'll have to go somewhere else. Yeah. So even all that took a process, but then I didn't get everything back. And that angered me, and I was so heartbroken, because what she sent me back was almost like what I sent her. Because when I originally sent her the manuscript, it was 12 chapters. You see, the book is 16. That was because during the edit, some of the stuff had to be broken up, had to add more and stuff. Yeah. So it wound up, and I'm like, no, you're not, because I'm trying to figure out, did everything get edited to like the point of done, or is it more revisions that need to be done? I'm like, you're not sending me the edits. Like, and she was like, well, I'm not keeping your stuff. I'm like, but you are. Like, you're not giving. I was very specific on what I needed. Even the cover, I'm like, I need the raw file of the cover. Mind you, me and my husband used to do stuff, so I understand what format it's supposed to be in. You're sending me the bits and pieces of what the artist did to put it together. So literally, I had gotten so frustrated and so depressed, because he was like, you might have to get an attorney. And I was like, well, why? And I mean, he's like, she's not giving you what you need. So then I'm calling people, and it was like, oh, well, you need like $500 to come for a consultation, and that'll go toward this. And it was like, well, it just depends on what we have to do in order to get you your stuff back and you know, your money back. And it could be a long, drawn out process.
This made me not want to write a book ever.
And no, I'm just saying, I'm just being transparent about the process. So I got into a whole depression. I was so mad and upset. I went into my garage, and I have a punching bag. I beat the snot out of that punching bag. And at the time, my son and his family was there, and they was like, "Why is the house shaking?" I was beating the snot because I was like crying and punching. I admit I was picturing her face while I was punching. I'm being honest. I didn't hit her. I was just mad. I was just so hurt. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm like, I'm not spending money to get money back. Cause I'm like, I felt like I'm going to be spending more money to get this back. So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing it. I was like, I give up. I was like, Lord, you said write the book. The book is written. I'm done. I was depressed for months. And my husband was looking at me like, he didn't say nothing. He was like,
He didn't say nothing, but he said something.
Right, he didn't say nothing, but he was looking like okay. I had to go through it. I had to go through the pain. I had to feel it or whatever. And then finally it was just like the Lord was like, okay, release the book. I'm like, did you lost your mind? Like, did you not just witness everything I went through? So he was like, no. So I did. So I had to sit down. I was like, fine. I had to pray. And it was funny because the person that I started with initially doing the book is who I wound up going back to. The only reason, right, and the only reason we had stopped, she had some stuff going on, I did too, but we communicated, and she was like, well, right now I'm not going to be able to get this out when you need to, so if you need to go with somebody else, I understand. Wow. But there was communication. Yeah. So I went back to her, you know, explained everything. And she was like, well, I need you to do X, Y, Z before we can touch it. So I'm still trying to get in contact with them. They're still not talking to me or whatever. And so, scared. And then, no, but then I had to go, mind you, I had to go through their pastor to get to them because I know their pastor and we're friends. I didn't even want to have to say anything to them, but you know, then she sent me a nasty email. Like, how dare you go to my pastor and tell on me? I was just like, oh my God.
Going to the pastor's like going to I'm going to tell mom.
Right. It's just like, and I'm just like, look, I'm like, all I wanted to do was sit down with her. And you wouldn't accept the phone call or anything like that. I wanted to sit down so that you could see I'm not being difficult, but what you sent me is not what I needed. Luckily, I had somebody to tell me how to go back in and save the stuff that I did. Because mind you, I had went and poured and did a whole lot extra from the original to get to this point. But they showed me how to go in and be able to pull it before I wasn't able to save it and work from that. So I had to, my publisher now 70, they had to recreate the cover. I was so nervous because I wanted that cover the same. I hadn't got a banner created and everything. And I sent her all the pieces. I sent her the original cover. And, you know, we worked through the edits and stuff, getting everything. And I'm like, okay, but where can I see the cover? I think I was so petrified about this cover that it was just like, so when she sent me the cover and I opened the email, I boo-hoo cried.
Because it was exactly what you wanted.
It was the exact same cover like the other guy, we only talked for 30 minutes. I sent him stuff. And when he sent me the cover, it was mind-blowing because I told him I wanted the head with the prison and the keys. He added the butterfly.
I was gonna ask about that.
I didn't tell him anything about the butterfly, but God knew I was in my butterfly season. So when he sent it, I knew he was in the vein and the heart of God with that.
Wow.
And that's how I felt. And that's why I was like, I needed it to look the same. And Erica captured everything. Like,
It looks good.
it's like maybe a slight difference, but you couldn't tell. I'm sitting up there, I was going back and forth.
She's trying
looking,
to figure out what.
right. I'm looking like back and forth, like what in the world? And it was so, and I cried because I was just like, I'm like, I done put this stuff out. I done got stuff with this on there, and I'm just like, I just want to see the cover. And it's like when I seen it, it was just like this. It was like, okay, I can breathe now.
Yeah.
And it just all came together, and it all came to fruition. And I was just like, but God, I got to pay for this again. And it was literally like paying for it twice.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm trusting him because the message that's in there. It's not just a book about my traumas. It's interactive because I give reflections for the reader to write and giving them keys and tools to help them get to that place of understanding.
Like
yeah, that's how I wanted it. Like, I didn't want you to just read about what I went through. No, I needed you to go through some of the processes that I had to go through to come to a place of healing.
Well, you almost need to, because it is a very heavy book. It's very, like, you definitely, it's not something you can just like sit down and like, I'm gonna read this on this fine Sunday afternoon. Like, I won't even lie to you. I think I read a few pages. I said, oh, I gotta prepare for this book. Like, but Lord, let me go get me a glass of wine while I open this thing, because it's impactful. It's heavy, but it's impactful. And it's funny that you mentioned the butterfly, because that's actually how I built around the butterfly effect, is how I came up with the name for my podcast, which is the Natasha Effect. So the butterfly effect is, like, as you know, one action, one decision, one thing that you do has that ripple effect around everyone around you. And so that's kind of what my basis is changing perspectives one conversation at a time. So it can be interchangeable to the Christina effect, to whoever, but just realize that every person you talk to or whoever's life you touch, that is going to impact some decision or some action further down the line. And so I was really cool to see. I was wondering what it meant for you on your cover, but you kind of touched on that. So that was kind of crazy. You're like, it wasn't even part of it.
Right, because I was just like, okay, I want these colors, and I'm like, I want the head, and coming out, the prison. I'm like, the prison door open, but I love how he put the butterfly coming out, because it's like you were in the cocoon. In the cocoon, you were in that dark place, and it's like you have to fight to come out, but that's where your strength is. Fighting, because they always say, like, if you try to help the butterfly out of the cocoon, you're really not helping it, you're hurting it. You're interrupting the process, and they could actually die. They find their strength in the fight of getting out of the cocoon. Then they're able to fly and live that life that they're meant to live. So I just love the fact that he put the butterfly basically coming out of the prison of the mind, because like we was talking about with the abuse, it's all about the mind. A lot of things with the trauma, it's about the mind. It affects our mind, which affects our body, and then so many other things around it. So it's helping to break out and come out of that.
Right, and it really is such a sign for transformation, which I think is really the entirety of your book. You move through so much. It's a lot to digest, so I for sure haven't finished it, but from what I've read and touched on and talking with you, you gather those lessons, but it's definitely something that I would probably have to read more than once. And I mean, shit, it took you 7 years, so I might have to every few months touch me on a topic. But I'm curious for you, while we wrap this up, like, what you've built from your journey is amazing. And I mean, all the lessons you've learned and where you've come from, like, it truly is an inspiration to women and to everybody. But what's next for you? Like, what are you what are you working on right now? What are you working towards? What are your goals?
I already have the chapters for the next book.
Of course, there's a next book.
Of course, it's,
She's like, I couldn't fit it all in there.
I couldn't. And the funny thing is, one of the editors from the first publisher, she was like, this is a series, right? I'm like, ma'am, I'm trying to finish the one book, and you talking about a whole series.
Hold on.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm working through these traumas. Chill
Exactly.
out.
And the funny thing is, even before this book came out, the Lord gave me the chapter titles for the next book. I'm like, I ain't even got the first one out. What is this? But I knew, right? It's like, no, like we're not stopping. But I knew that it was a lot. Like
that
I say,
been your sign that this one will be successful.
So it was a lot, in that. So going on to the next would be just diving deeper into some of the different things, like breaking the traumas down into, maybe like abandonment and rejection or whatever.
Issues.
Right, like more individual issues, getting a little bit more deep into, what I went through and how I went through that process. Of course, you're going to have the, the reflections and the self-help and working through the different things, because it's really about helping others and empowering them to become, their best self, being a lot, letting them know, like, okay, the cell door is open. A lot of times the cell door can be open and we're still sitting in there and we're just looking out, just like how your door is open and we can see out there or whatever. But unless I actually get up and walk out, I'm not going to leave this room.
It's like, we put, Lewis calls it like psychological imprisonment. And in terms of like, if you think about it from a child's perspective, so like Ezra, he's very able to just crawl out of the playpen we have right out here and the door will be open. And he will sit there and cry until we come, you can leave, or we come get him, because he thinks he can't, because we told him to stay there. Mm-hmm. And we said, no, you're in timeout, stay here. But it's crazy that if you put something in front of them, something they could very easily move. He knows how to open the door, all of those. But psychologically, he's stuck. And so I think if you think about it from even something as simple as a toddler's perspective, that's exactly what it is. And that right now just clicked for me. Like when you said it there, I'm like, wow, my son does that shit. So
yeah, it's like because you've gone through that trauma, and it's like, no, like you're no longer, like I said, you're no longer that 7-year-old. You're no longer, the 15-year-old or however, but you're sitting there and it's like the prison door is open. Like all you had to do is walk out, but it grips you, that fear, it grips you. And even though I see freedom on the other side of the door, it's like,
well, you don't know what's there either.
Right. It's like the door is open. It's like, but wait, is it really freedom on the other side of the door? Or is it more trauma and pain on the other side of the door? I know what this feels like. I know what this feels like. So let me just stay here. I know what this feels like. I don't know that if I cross that threshold, what is that going to feel like? Is it going to be worse?
And I think that comes from like the grass isn't always greener. In your case, obviously it was, but some people, they get where you were at or where you're at is uncomfortable, but you get comfortable with that uncomfortable. You don't want to learn. We as human beings too, we don't like to do new things. We don't like the unknown. And I know for me, like that's my biggest fear in life is the unknown. So if I don't know, like I'm a control freak. So if I don't know, like the camera situation, I'm so stressed about it, but I shouldn't be because it's whatever. But I'm such a control freak that I'm like, well, fuck guys, fuck's my whole podcast. That's everything else. But I think we have to let go of that sometimes the unknown is better, and you just have to get through that threshold and just move, just do it. And if it's worse, go back and just kind of reevaluate your pros and cons, really.
Right.
But yeah, and you know what's crazy is I need you to finally sign my book.
You're right. I am gonna sign your book. And the other thing too is, and you get your
oh, I get a gift?
You get your keychain. So we had these made. So because of the unlock thing, I was like, okay, I need guess a niche, as you will. So I chose.
It
So
works. I like
so I chose this, right. Not only just a book, but the key. It's actually a bottle opener. So it's a good thing, just saying.
dual purpose.
It's right, dual purpose. But I liked it because, like I said,
I need a drink while
right. But like on the book, when I asked for the keys, like the older ancient keys or whatever, it kind of reflects that or whatever. But it also reminds you that you hold the key. You have the power to unlock and walk out of that prison door. This is your reminder that I hold the keys in my hand, because that's what I'm giving you in the reflection. They're keys. So I now have the tools. I now have the key that I hold and the power to not only unlock it, but to be able to walk out. So this is like your reminder, even on those days where it feels like this is a little bit heavy, this is a little bit too much or whatever. This is like your reminder that you can hold on to. No, I have what's inside of me to unlock and get out of this, and I don't have to stay here.
That's powerful. I like it.
So that was one of the reasons I did the keys. And like I said, we did the bookmarkers with the one that says, unlocked, and then the other one that says it's time to get unlocked. So that was just something
I love that saying that you
Since the first time I ever heard you say it, it is so stuck with me. Like I said, I hear it and I'm like, Christina. So you did a really good job marketing it and tying it in with what you needed to, because it is a very powerful meaning and connection to it.
Right. And so I love that. That's always, like I said, my husband, I have to give him credit, because he helped me with the motto. Like I was, a lot of stuff I bounce off of him or whatever. It's like, okay, what's the best way to say it? And so that's where the motto comes up with, don't allow the traumas of your past to imprison your future. Yeah. It's time to get unlocked. Welcome to your journey. Because that's what it is. It's a journey. It's not a race. It's not immediate. It's not a microwave. It's because a lot of times that's what we want. We want right. We want instant. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, just get it out of me, and I want to be done with it. No, it's a
That's
a
why
journey.
I don't like therapy. It'd be taking too long.
But it has to. It's a process, because it's like you can get over one thing and you think you're good, and then you go through something else and be like, hey, I thought I dealt with that.
It unlocks something.
But
else.
it unlocked.
Right.
It unlocks something else. It's like they always say, if you think about an onion, you know how many thousands of layers in one onion? Like, if you literally do the little peeling or whatever, you just thinking about that, okay, I done got there, but you're still not at the center yet. Yeah. You're still going, because sometimes even with the residue, you have to get residue. You think about when you clean something or whatever, and it's like that light film. That's the residue. So technically, it's not really gone until you can get the residue and it's completely clear. It's completely clean. So it's like going through this, even having to go back through the book, like you say, several times. It's just, it's getting the layers, but it also ultimately gets the residue. Because even before I finally was like, okay, I'm going through this whole process again, and the Lord said, pick it back up, I went to trauma therapy. I went to trauma therapy for several months. Like, I went back through the book and I kind of did my own tweaking or whatever. And as soon as I finished that, I did the trauma therapy, and then I started back up with my publicist. But I needed to, because it was some residue.
Maybe you needed that. I always say, like, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Maybe you needed that reset or that intermission between the publishers for you to really sit with and finish getting your residue of, like, whatever you were dealing with. And then that is ultimately why it didn't work out.
And that's exactly what he told me. He was like, you wasn't fully ready, because with the residue and having to retell the story and go through this or whatever, there were still some certain things that was sensitive in nature that I thought the wound was healed. But sometimes we can think wounds are healed, but then if you press deep enough,
you reopen it back up.
You reopen it, or you realize it's still sensitive. you know, because like if you're having an internal surgery, like the outside, the incision may heal. So that doesn't necessarily hurt anymore. But if you press deep enough, it's like, oh, wait, like, hold on, that's uncomfortable. That means it hasn't healed. But now going through it, pressing, it doesn't hurt. It may be like some areas that may be a little sensitive, but it's just getting the rest of the residue
It's
off.
not going to cause you to spiral.
Right. It's not right. It's not going to cause me to spiral. That's another reason why it took me 7 years, because in some things in writing, I spiraled.
You had to really deal with it.
I had to deal with it. Literally in the midst of writing this, I did spiral. I tried to commit suicide again. Talking about, you know, how, you know, the different things or whatever, I spiraled. I tried to commit suicide again, and I realized, okay, I need to get help. I can't do this on my own, especially if I'm going to talk about all this and I dealt with all that. I need help. So I did. I had to go back to counseling. I had to get the help. I did counseling. I had life coaches. I had mentor. I have a whole, you might as well say, mental village.
Your own little, well, I think with the extent of what you dealt with, and it's crazy to think that if you're going through that, think about how many other people are going through it and nobody knows.
Right.
Because like you said, on the outside, no one would have known, but you get on the inside of your life, then it's crazy. So think about how many men and women will say that you are helping because you were able to do the work. And now maybe you give someone else the keys or the power to do the work themselves as well. So I think that is where like the truly powerful part of this book is you didn't just write it and talk at somebody. You gave them the tools that you had to look for and get to help themselves work through their own shit.
Right. And I wanted to, like I said, I wanted it to be empowering for other people, because I already knew, like you say, it is weighty. It is heavy. And I didn't want to leave somebody with drudging up all these emotions and feelings and not giving them an outlet or a way to handle or deal with them, because that's not a good thing. Because you have so many things that they, you know, you go to places or seminars or conferences or whatever, and they talk about all this stuff, and now you done opened up all these wounds and stuff, you know, that they might not have been ready for, and now they walk out the door, but you haven't given them anything to help them cope with now the feelings that have come up. Like, what do they do with this? And, you know, sometimes you can cause a person to be worse off than they were before they heard it or recognized it or opened it up. That's why I like to let people know that, yeah, I am a certified life coach. I do have my AA in Christian counseling or whatever, that, you know, I can help you, or if I can't help you, find a therapist, find somebody, because once you know, you can't unknow it.
Yeah, for sure. That girl, you said it better than I could have. Like, I feel like today was very heavy. You go. But no, I always, and I knew from the first time I ever talked to you that, like, you can just tell sometimes when people, like, they've been through some shit, and I was like, I gotta talk to her. And then you shared your story, and you had your book released and all that stuff. And so I'm thankful that I get to know you. I'm thankful that, like, your past didn't succumb you, and I'm truly thankful that you're here to share your story. But I look forward to getting to hear about this next book. You know what's crazy is I was like, you know what? She probably ain't gonna write another book. You said, oh, it's in the works. I said, okay. Bombs dropped out here. But no, I just really am thankful, and I just want to thank you for coming and talking with me and talking with everybody and showing everybody and reminding them that healing isn't always pretty. It's not bubble baths and bubbly that we all see on social media. Sometimes you really got to get in there and do the work. And I'm thankful you did it, and cause show me how to do it. Because sometimes Louis be like, you need therapy. but I'm independent. I'm gonna do therapy by myself. But you have to be ready. You have to be ready to want those things. And so I think that was my biggest takeaway from today is like, do things when you're ready, and not everything is a highlight reel. And so I just wanted to say thank you for joining me on the Natasha Effect. And is there anything else that you want to share with everybody before you go?
We already shared my motto, but
she said, I done shared everything about my life. Natasha. What more do you people want?
No, it's just really just be open, be honest. Find somebody that you can be honest with, because everybody is not a safe space. Everybody is not a safe space. I encountered that, but find somebody that where you can be honest and transparent and have that safe space and get the help that you need. And even if you do therapy or life coaching, counseling, or whatever, don't be one and done. You have to find the right fit. Just like if you had to go to a doctor and you be like, oh, I don't like their bedside manner. I don't like how they do this. You're not going to stop if you need help. So you have to think about
like second opinions.
Right. You're like, no, I want a second opinion. So just like you would get the help if you had a wound or issue in your body, your mental is a part of you. You know, it guides you, it leads you, you know, a lot of different things. It happens in our mind before it happens anywhere else. So don't just be one and done with getting help. Get a second opinion. Find somebody that's right for you, because there's somebody out there that's going to be right for you. And it takes a village. Sometimes you may have to have more than one. Like I said, I had to do a trauma specialist. I have, you know, a regular therapist. I have, you know, a life coach. I have certain mentors, because each person speaks to a different part of you. Just like you have a regular physician, you have specialists. You have somebody for the brain, somebody for the heart, you know, the gallbladder, your reproductive, you know, foot, ear, nose, and throat. You have a specialist. So you have to treat your traumas of your mind, your emotions, just like that. Like, okay, this person can help me with this. They specialize in this, but for this particular trauma, I might need this particular person. And you have to treat it like that. It doesn't mean you're wacko because you need more than one person. Like it just means that you truly want to be helped.
I think it makes you aware, and there is such a stigma still. And that was my biggest thing against therapy, is there is such a stigma against it, and like how people see it. I think it's becoming better now in society. Yeah. It's becoming more normalized. But previous, it's always been like, okay, so what's wrong with you?
Right. And then also the old adage, what happens in this house stays in this house. So it's like, you don't go putting your business out in the street. Like, what's wrong with you? Or if you went to see a therapist, then automatically you crazy. Like, no, you need somebody to talk to help you maneuver and figure out things. And then they help you because they ask you questions that you don't think to ask yourself.
And that's why, like, they say everyone needs a counsel, right? Like, Lewis says that to me all the time. He's like, I consult with my counsel, which is just as close friends and family about, you know, personal things or what we might have going on. But that would be, like, his form of therapy in this aspect. Right. But even in the military, it's better. I wouldn't say a lot better now, but even in the military, like, if you say you want to go see mental health, immediately you're labeled as a problem, or they look at you different, or like mental health is not treated as how you're saying, like, it should be treated like the body. It is not treated that way. And I think a lot of my own self stigma towards that and my negative thoughts about counseling came from that as well. Like, you have to, especially as a woman, you have to be seen as like this powerful person. You already have to work harder, especially in a male saturated field. And then you're like, I want to go talk to mental health. Like when I said to you in basic training, my foster dad passed away. I never forget it to this day. I was crying, obvious reasons. Right. And my drill sergeant was like, well, Sudsbury, it looks like you got a lesson in resiliency today. That was her comfort. That was what she said to me. And obviously I looked at her sideways. But that that right there told me everything I needed to know about the military and society's view about mental health.
Right.
And so I think that people, especially like you writing books like this, or people talking more outwardly and openly about it in a positive way, like, because obviously it's impacted you very positively, that is going to have a better effect on the people around you, society, anyone you talk to. But yeah, when she said that to me, I was like dumbfounded, really.
I was dumbfounded. I mean, okay, I'm just
I
gonna,
seen your face.
no, okay. I'm just gonna have a vulnerable, transparent moment. In my mind, I slapped her, because I was just like, why would you say that to somebody? Like what? Like that is
She
just
was a
so.
woman, too.
I know that's what I'm saying. Because when you said, when I was like, oh wait, it's a she, because I would expect that from a male.
Be a man, exactly.
I would expect that from a man, even though that would still be hard and harsh. You would think they would be more empathetic, but I'm like, you just lost somebody that was near and dear to you. That was a parent. Like, why would you say something? And that's what turns people from, like you say, having that help or wanting to get that help. Because, but maybe also the other side of it is maybe somebody did that to her.
Well, my thought process was, now obviously in the moment I was upset and hurt, but my thought process is she was our senior drill sergeant. She was a female, so she was also a female in a male saturated space where she has to work harder and be less emotional and prove herself on a daily basis. That maybe that was her way of fitting in. Was it the right way? No, but that was her way of showing them, I'm not emotional, like I'm not, because the other male drill sergeants, I expected it from them, but I didn't expect it from her at all. I mean, I heard them say, oh, stop crying, this and that. And I was used to that. That's fine. Oh, why is she crying? But she knew, and she still said that. So I can still see it from both sides, because I'm in that space. Like, I'm in senior leadership and I'm in a male dominated space. So I could see how you have to put on that facade. But I'm also in a training environment that I was 2 weeks into basic training. Like,
oh, so you was very new.
I went from civilian life to this shithole, and then that happened. So I was in a traumatic environment,
right? And
then a trauma happened to me, and then you said that, so it was like
triple trauma.
Yeah,
basically, yeah. But it's a good thing. But like you said, it took you being older to be able to kind of step outside of it, to be able to, right. Right. But to be able to step outside of it, to try to see it from both ways. But even still with that, it's still a trauma of something, because even when you said it, it's still a twinge there.
Oh, I'm still mad
But that's what I'm saying. It's still a twinge there that, some healing that still needs to go on right there. But that's how you know when you're healed from something, because like you say, oh, I know exactly how she said it, because it takes you back to that moment. When you're able to just tell the story as, as a matter of fact, or it happened. But when you're without emotion, but when you're telling the story with the same emphasis, the same emotion, the same or whatever, as if it just happened, it's still there and it still needs to be dealt with. And that's what I would just kind of say, like, when you're kind of gauging, it's like, just get the help that you need. And everybody don't necessarily have to know that you're getting help, because it's not everybody's business, because everybody sees things differently. And a lot of times people will speak negatively about you getting help because they like seeing you in a hole.
Or from earlier when we were talking, they might not be ready to understand it, or they might not be in a place to receive that. And so often people do like to see you, they like to cheer for your downfall, I almost like to say, because they cheer for you until you're doing better than them, and then suddenly it's like, where you went.
Right. But then also too, because when you become whole and you start getting resolved, it makes them now have to face some things they don't want to face. Like, no, if you're in the hole and I'm in the hole, we good. But see, now you're out of the hole and you're getting better. Now your thought process, your verbiage, your language is going to change, which means now I can't stay at that lower place because you're not at that lower place.
They have to elevate to meet
Right,
where you're at.
right. So it's like now you're gonna want me to come up to where you at, and I don't want to do that. So I'd rather tell you that doing that is full of baloney. You know, I I know you would use another language, but
It's a safe space.
but I'm just saying that, you know, they're going to downplay it or call you crazy or say it's bull, you know, or whatever, because they don't want you to come up higher, because then that's going to require them to have to come up, and they're not ready. They're not ready to do that. So you have to make the decision for yourself. Do I really want to be out of this? And do I, like you were saying, what you was telling me earlier, I don't give a F about you know what they think, you know, like you're not doing this, you're not doing that.
Oh.
If I want to be whole for me, so forget you. I don't care about what you think.
I live by. She talking about that. I'll say it. I don't care.
I know you are.
If I said this is what I live by, if you're not fucking me, funding me, or feeding me, I don't give a fuck. And what I mean by that is obviously the first one's self-explanatory. But the feeding me, like, are you feeding me spiritually, physically, emotionally, friendships? So if you're not making me better, then why are you here? And then, of course, funding me is like, you know, just supporting your business or entrepreneurial endeavors. But that is, I think everyone should live by that, honestly.
New title.
Right. But it's like, really, like, if you're not really helping to make me better, or supporting me, putting food on my table, or like you say, you know, or sewing into, you know, my business, or at least telling people, if you can't sew into it, but you can tell somebody about it and they can support me or whatever. If you're not doing all of that, but you just want me to stay in the hole so that you have company, because misery loves company, then no, I'm gonna let you stay in the hole by yourself, and I'm gonna go on. Now, I will offer you to help to come out the hole with me, but if you want to stay there, then I'm just gonna have to leave you there and just go on about my business.
Like, I'll throw you a rope, but you gotta grab it.
Right.
And some people don't want to do the work to grab it. They want you to do it for them, pull them out the hole. Like, I just pulled myself out.
Exactly.
I'm gonna come get you for. I'm tired. Baby, I'm tired.
Right.
But
This is a job to keep me sane. And you want me to keep you sane too? Like, no, you got to do the work.
All right. Well, I guess that is it for us today, Christina. So this has been the Natasha Effect. So until next time.